What's going on? Boys, I've been getting 4 hours of sleep per night, and I have been drinking canned, sugared coffee. I'm telling you this now because if my brain sounds like it's rotting, it probably is. Today we are talking a bit about a confirmed ENTJ, a suspected ENTJ, and then throwing shit at the wall in the form of commentary. I've been thinking a lot about leadership lately, and after interacting with these two individuals in leadership positions for some time, I have some observations and some thoughts. We'll start with the confirmed ENTJ, the more typical ENTJ. We met under weird circumstances. He noticed one of my hidden Easter egg conversation starters on my person and then proceeded to half interrogate me about it, half inform me about it, of what it was. Because there's no way I would know or have an interpretation or a history with it outside of its exact physical form, which is a pattern I've noticed with ENTJs. Let's say you are wearing a Castro cap. That must mean you hold communist sympathies, because a capitalist would never be caught dead wearing a hat with that symbolic potency. There is no way that hat could have its own individual significance. Now, an ENTJ might not say something like that outright, but I have noticed assigning significance for them at first operates that way. I.e., if you're wearing something like a branded shirt, expect them to expect you to be associated with that brand in some way or have some personal investment in it beyond its function as a piece of clothing or the personal story it might have. Anyway, what started as a 5-minute sharing some knowledge, bro, just saying moment turned into a 2.5 hour dissection of our lives up to that point, by the end of which I'm trying not to cry and the ENTJ is trying to give me a job and get me to go shooting with him. Now, although he was a bit much, as many ENTJs are, I liked him because he was informed, real, and generally good, despite the holier than thou appearance. And you can't, well, you can. You probably shouldn't judge ENTJs on first impressions or the front they're putting up. This is hard to explain. You might need FE for it, but when evaluating someone, particularly ENTJs, trust the under vibes or undercurrent of who they seem to be. Now, the reason I bring up liking him is I'm beginning to believe you should not work with people you really like unless the circumstances are perfect, because you will go further than you should for someone you like. Before he gave me real contract work, he wanted to test my skills as a writer. And my portfolio, for some reason, was not good enough. So he wanted me to write 2 sample articles about the same topic, which was a bit of a nonsense topic. I get why he structured this test this way, but it was nonsense and a waste of time. And if someone else had asked me to do this sort of thing, I would have declined immediately. But unfortunately, I liked him. So, despite the prompt's vagueness, I wrote it that night because I was going to be busy doing cleaning shit the next 2 nights alongside my normal fucking jobs. And of course, when someone says, I want you to write this for me, do whatever you want, they absolutely do not mean do whatever you want. So, when my interpretation of do whatever you want regarding this topic came back as no, do exactly this regarding this topic, do it again, except this time with even less passion and still without pay, I told him as politely as I could, and I meant it politely, I feel compelled not to disappoint you. Meaning, my perfectionism is going to latch on to your perfectionism, and every other aspect of my professional and personal life will suffer because your expectations are moving a futon into my head, and I don't think there is enough money for me to commit to doing that right. And I'm doing it for free right now, which is bullshit. That factors a little bit into something I've noticed about NTJs in particular. They will take as much as they can and give as little as they can if they can get away with it. And I don't even think it's malicious. That's something to keep in mind. I think they're just wired that way. When you are watching that instinct at work from the outside, it's funny. When you are tied to it personally, it's miserable and you need to get on top of it as soon as you can. Now, again, one of the reasons I like ENTJs is despite the fronts they put up, they tend to be adorable on the inside. Maybe I've just been lucky with the ENTJs I've run into and studied, but that is a pattern that proves itself again and again and again. His response to what I said was actually this clearly bullshit article meant to test some of your skills in a personalized, customized way instead of just looking at your portfolio is for a client. Even though there were no deadlines mentioned, the topic of the article was something we discussed in passing, but I put emphasis on so I can, using this article, test to see how well you were paying attention to me, and some other shit. But I was planning on paying you double your rate once you completed this project, and I'll even add a bonus as thanks. Now, that's adorable because clearly there is no client. It was sweet of him to offer to go out of his pocket in a roundabout way, in a pretty steep way, not a super steep way, steep enough to ensure I'm compensated for my time. That brings up another bit of a contradiction in ENTJs. When they like someone, it goes from taking as much as they can while giving as little as they can to giving way, way more than they probably should while receiving little to nothing in return. But again, I turned him down and emphasized I would like to be his friend, maybe not his employee. And I turned him down for a few reasons, leadership reasons. One, if you are flexible and considerate, don't play inflexible and inconsiderate. You're not making yourself look tough and reliable, you're making yourself look difficult to work with. Even if you are easy to work with and generous, you've already colored a person's view of you, and they might start interpreting neutral actions as negative actions and positive actions as neutral actions. You're in a hole that you don't need to be in. Second thing, specificity is one of the most important things in the world. If you want something specific, you cannot afford to give anyone any room to misunderstand anything. Vagueness will give everyone headaches and potentially stop you from getting done what needs getting done So be specific as you can, as early as you can. Third thing I'm picking up here is be careful with criticism. A pattern I've noticed specifically in ENTJ males is criticism. Almost every ENTJ male I have interacted with has generated a running verbal litany of my shortcomings, down to the smallest, most who would even think of that things. Now, again, I am pretty sure they are not doing this maliciously. I think they are trying to inform you of things they perceive as vulnerabilities so you can shore them up now that you're aware of them. And most of the time, I get a kick out of that. If we are to that point, we are talking for real, and if we're talking for real, I want to figure out what you notice and why. And with these ENTJs, their observations of your shortcomings indicate where their minds go. It is useful, interesting information. And sometimes they even give you things worth thinking about and correcting. For instance, I have never thought about my palms, which sometimes are sweaty. Mom's spaghetti. This ENTJ informed me when we shook hands that my hands were clammy and a little gross, and I should consider drying them before shaking people's hands. If he noticed it and felt grossed out by it, other people would, even if they wouldn't say anything or hadn't said anything. And that is such a neurodivergent, SE thing to notice and then to criticize, but he's right. If drying my hands on my shirt before shaking someone's hand makes an even 1% better first impression, it's worth doing. Why wouldn't you? But, again, this sort of thing creates precedent. If we are just socializing together, I can enjoy that sort of speed bag criticism. I can take what works and leave the rest. If you're paying me, I can't do that. Dante must die expectations are fun when you're observing them. Dante must die expectations are not fun when you are in them. Especially when they're wrong or not black or white correct and you've proven so. By that point, you are doing something you know to be false for money, and that is agitating. So if you're going to criticize on the professional level, be careful. Now, we have a point that counters that one directly, but we'll get to it. Now we're getting into the next one, the unconfirmed ENTJ. I'm specifying unconfirmed because while I would bet a lot of money she's an ENTJ, I am not 100% sure. She might be a 3W2 or a 1W2 instead of an 8. Now, the reason I wouldn't stake my life on this is her leadership style. She comes off as bubbly, friendly, and outgoing. And while I don't think that's fake, I am certain it's an exaggeration and a strategy. She does all these winning friends and influencing people things, but then she takes actions, not words, actions that are absolutely going to piss people off and create enemies. Actions people with even an ounce of untrained FE would know to at least be. Oh, fuck, I split the infinitive. I dug myself into a hole there and couldn't rewind. Would know at least to be careful about. For example, Hey, this dude has been helping us out for free for a few years now. I know his name, but I can't really remember it right now because I don't really bother with him. Anyway, he stopped doing what he was doing for free. Instead of calling him to check on him, make sure he's healthy, or to thank him for all the thankless work for free he's been doing the last couple years, or even to pay him something, even a little bit under the table, just because we appreciate him for doing this shit, drudgery work for us for free, I'm gonna call him and tell him to get on it. And if I can't contact him, then you do it. Now, my tone in that example was shitty because that's how it sounds, even if you say it in a nice voice. I was taken aback by this moment enough. I called people I know who live outside this ecosystem to get their thoughts on it because I don't want. I think it's bad enough if people knew about it. That would be, I would say, the beginning of the end of someone's socialization. But there are apparently moments like this. More people than I thought are already aware of. And I don't want to fuck up an already fucking up more than I thought reputation. Because again, I don't think when ENTJs do this, they are being malicious. I believe they are so socially dumb, they have no idea how bad telling a volunteer you have never thanked to get on it is. And then to put that on other people. And that's not even the only time something like that has happened. It's like a person who needs to lie down on the ground deciding, instead of bending their knees and lying down on the ground, they are going to hit themselves in the head with a hammer repeatedly until they fall over. You've achieved the same effect, but holy shit, dude. Do you realize the effect that's going to have for something that minor? As in, shit, it's something I could do. Something I did. I would rather just do it myself. You tell me to do it, I'll do it. Instead of trying to tell the unthanked volunteer to get on it. I don't want my reputation attached to that. Moments like that are some of the things that make me pretty sure she's an ENTJ. Something to watch out for. There's a difference between nice and kind. And while I think she is a kind person, she often, in actions, not in words, comes across otherwise. For example, during our interview, she called herself a servant leader, and she made it sound good. But for a long while, in actions, in practice, she did the opposite. Getting employees to do dirty and sometimes dangerous stuff without ever getting involved herself or leaving early. Now, that's starting to change. People almost never change. So the fact some change for the better is happening is astounding. Progress is amazing. Not everyone is going to wait to see progress, wait for the chance of progress. In terms of places I've worked, this one has hit me right out the gate with the most bad first impressions of any of them. And all those problems come from disorganized leadership. And again, I've seen ENTJs like this. ENTJs who are professionally disorganized, not just losing their keys. ENTJs who really make the effort to win friends and influence people without seeming to understand the soul behind those strategies. Planning specific logistics now for 5 years in the future. Using nature like Xanax. Having a history of holding executive type positions and dealing with large sums of money, and so on, but I have not seen one that uncomfortable in their own skin and identity. Uncomfortable might be the wrong word. It's like dealing with a bear that either doesn't know how to be a bear or was disincentivized strongly from being a bear and is now really weird about it. One of my favorite Pat Cooper quotes: "If you're born a dog, you can't die a cat." I think what turns people on her is the fact she is trying to be nice while doing shit that is egregiously not considerate. I still think she's a good person, but it's like the first impressions example. Not everyone is going to sit around, keep score, and put those tallies on a scale. They're going to see someone who appears to be nice, and then they're going to watch that person do something scummy, and then their mind is going to be made up, and then they're going to spread that word, which seems to be kind of what's happening. And it never ceases to disturb me just how fake people can be. And I don't even feel comfortable making recommendations because I don't know exactly what she does. I don't feel comfortable, and I don't think it's right, telling people what they should and shouldn't be doing when you don't know what quicksand they're in. If someone else were like what she was like the first few months I was working there, I would have written them off and put them in the hate pile. But the fact she can't hide her dead eyes all the time, which contrast starkly against the front she's putting up. Remember, when you're dealing with the ENTJs, pay more attention to the undervibes or the undercurrent than the front, and the fact her sentience slips out. A sentience I see in all the ENTJs I interact with, but we've remained guarded, I think, because of the abysmal first impressions. But that sentience is there, I done seen it. And the fact she actually has, all of a sudden, I still don't know why, been doing or making good on those good leadership promises. Trying to. Makes me interested in seeing what this person is made of. The fact I have nothing better to do and can't get my gosh darn fucking book published doesn't hurt. Anyway, leadership commentary using this ENTJ's actions. Number 1. While delegation is important, get your hands dirty. I like dirty grunt work because it gives me ammunition against leaders I dislike. If you're leading people and you are willing to work alongside them doing shit work, not only will they feel better about you, but also you are affording them less room to maneuver against you. She started doing that and it made an immediate difference. Second thing, kind of in the same line, take care of people. If someone's going out of the way for you, the least you can do is make them feel appreciated. Or, if not that, at least don't make them feel like a chump. You'll be doing the right thing, and you'll allow no room for your reputation to get damaged. Doing the right thing is not just about trying to be a good person. There are cold-blooded, strategic reasons to be kind. Even if you aren't aware of them or are just focusing on being a good person, those cold-blooded reasons will get you into a better position. Not necessarily into a good seat, more like a good position behind the seat of someone everyone is about to turn on and needs to replace. And the last thing here, because I'm rambling, leaders need to be leaders. It's like master and commander. Cohesion lies in your followability. If you become someone people don't want to follow, they will not follow you. Inaction or improper actions. Unleaderly actions. If you become someone people do want to follow, people still won't follow you, but some might. That concept is painfully vague, but I think it's something felt, like my definition of gravity or righteousness. And to be fair, on two counts, one, she's trying, and two, most ENTJs don't actually possess this quality. They are good at selling the idea of it, but few ENTJs are actually very good leaders. Most ENTJ leaders are, at best, signposts. Something that stands there and points in a general direction. No summary on this one because I'm very sleepy. Aside from ENTJs are still cool. And I think the reason I like watching them is they're like actors acting out directions from FI that have been scrambled or distorted. And again, keep emphasizing this point every time ENTJs come up. People's opinions matter. You might not think so, you might not like it, but you need to be really careful of what people think. That goes for everybody, but it's especially important for ENTJs because you are the least equipped to see when people are getting ready to turn on you. But that about rippity wraps this one up. I hope you enjoyed watching, because I certainly enjoyed making it. My brain is melted. I've had no idea what to talk about for the last 2 weeks. Nothing is really worth talking about. Like if you enjoyed, because it helps me out a lot. Subscribe if you haven't, because we do this shit sometimes. And comment your thoughts, because I love hearing from you. What's your personal narrative about how you're a great leader, and what do people who hate you think? But thanks again for watching, everybody. Really, we have a lot of fun on this channel. So much fun. In fact, you can put it in a can of caffeinated sugar slop and drink it down and melt your brain. Because that's how much we have on this channel, and I look forward to doing this with you guys again in... Ow! Fuck the future.